Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you're curious about and, well, we dive deep, pulling out the key stuff so you can get up to speed fast.
Get you right into the heart of it.
Exactly. And today we're tackling something really interesting from Luiz von Paumgarten's The Abstractionists papers. There's this one piece called, You're Already Interpreting This Wrong.
Which is quite a title, isn't it? Grabs your attention.
It really does. So our mission today is to unpack that, to explore this idea that what you experience as the outside world, it's not actually a direct feed.
Right. It's something your mind is actively building, constructing.
Like from the inside out.
Precisely. Think about it like those blindfolded people trying to figure out an elephant. Remember that old story?
Oh yeah, the parable. One touches the trunk, thinks snake.
Exactly. Another, the leg, thinks tree trunk. Someone else, the tusk, thinks spear. They're all having a real sensory input, right?
Yeah.
But their interpretation.
Totally different based on limited information.
Completely different internal worlds based on the same interaction. And that internal world, that mix of subjective feeling and what we think is objective reality, that's what von Paumgarten calls our red space.
Okay, red space, got it. And that relates to, was it the blue space?
Yes. The red space is our internal construction. The blue space is, let's call it the realm of interaction, the actual cause and effect stuff happening out there before we interpret it.
Interesting. You know, the book starts by pointing out this kind of paradox we're living in. We've got amazing tech, resources everywhere, but internally, people feel more, I don't know, fragile, confused, disconnected even.
Yeah, it's a really insightful observation. There's this external abundance, but maybe an internal deficit.
And the book suggests this feeling hints at something deeper.
Well, yeah, the author proposes that maybe this unease comes from the fact that we actually know very little about reality itself. We're always interpreting. We're sort of at the edge, constantly trying to make sense of signals.
Always translating, never just receiving.
You could put it that way. Our minds have built-in limits to how we interpret. We're always experiencing reality through a filter.
Which brings us to that fantastic image, the Puppet King.
Oh, the allegory from the Baroness and the Abstractionist? Yes, it's brilliant.
Describe it again. We're like puppets.
Puppets, yeah, each wrapped in our own red veil. That's our individual red space, our subjective world. And crucially, we're blindfolded to the shared blue space, where everything actually connects and interacts.
So it's like we're each putting on our own show inside our heads, unaware of the stagehands and the actual mechanics.
That's a great way to think about it. That red veil is our interpretation, our unique perspective. It feels totally real and complete from the inside.
But it blocks us from seeing the underlying reality, the blue space.
Exactly. We don't directly access the blue space.
Yeah.
And the escape the book talks about, it's not breaking out of prison walls.
No.
No, it's about realizing the limits of our own minds, escaping the constraints of our interpretation.
Okay, so red space again, just to be clear, that's everything.
Yeah.
Thoughts, memories, sounds, sights, feelings, the whole internal experience.
Whole internal shebang, exactly. Everything you can access within your consciousness. And it feels complete, right? It feels like that's just how things are.
Definitely.
But the key point is, it's entirely constructed. Your mind is the architect, the builder, the decorator, everything.
And our lives, our experiences, they shape this red space, don't they? So your red space and my red space, they're going to be different because we've lived different lives.
Absolutely fundamental point. Every single thing you experience molds how you interpret the next thing. It tweaks the lens.
So even if we're both looking at the same, I don't know, tree.
We're having different internal experiences of treeness, shaped by our past encounters with trees, our feelings about nature, everything. We share the same blue space interaction, light waves bouncing off the tree, but our red spaces are unique, private universes.
Which means every time we talk to someone,
it's like two hidden worlds trying to connect through the fog of interpretation. Communication is always translation.
wow, okay. This reminds me of those classic thought experiments. Plato's Cave, obviously. The Matrix.
Right, the book acknowledges them. They tap into that gut feeling we have, don't they? That maybe what we see isn't the whole story.
Yeah, Plato's prisoners seeing shadows, thinking they're real.
And needing to turn around to see the fire, then the sunlight to grasp the bigger picture. The Matrix is just the sci-fi version, a simulated reality we need to wake up from.
But the book says these analogies aren't quite right, or they miss something.
They're useful starting points, but yeah, von Paumgarten argues they often imply there's one shared illusion and one single objective reality to escape to.
Okay. And the difference is?
The difference is subtle but important. Instead of one big shared dream, Think of multiple parallel minds. Each one is independently building its own unique meaning, its own red space, in response to the same underlying blue space interactions, what the author calls natural reality.
So it's not one cave, but countless individual caves, all built facing the same landscape.
That's a nice way to put it. Less about a collective escape, more about recognizing the diversity of individual realities arising from common ground, each mind composing its own music from the same universal notes.
Okay, let's nail down this blue space versus red space thing. Causation versus interpretation.
Crucial distinction. Blue space is about causation, interaction, how things physically affect other things. The raw physics, the chemistry, the signals, it's the how it works layer.
And red space.
That's interpretation, what your mind does with those signals. It creates meaning, narrative, experience. It's the what it feels like or what it means layer.
Use the wind example, right?
Perfect example. A gust of wind, that's a blue space event. Air molecules moving, same cause for everyone nearby.
But the red space experience varies wildly.
Solely. For one person, it's just leaves rustling. For another, it's the wind turbine starting up. For a child, maybe it's startling, even scary. Same blue space cause, different red space interpretations and experiences.
And they're described as orthogonal. That sounds technical.
It does, but the idea is actually quite intuitive. Think of two lines crossing at a right angle. They intersect, they interact at that point, but they don't merge or become the same line. They operate on different axes.
So blue space operates by its rules, physics, causality.
Right. And red space operates by its rules, meaning-making, association, emotion, memory. They influence each other where they meet, but they remain distinct types of things.
Like apples and jazz solos you said earlier.
Exactly. Different categories entirely. But they depend on each other, don't they?
How so?
Well, without the blue space interactions, there's nothing to interpret. Your red space would have no input.
Right. Blank slate.
And without the red space interpretation, the world would just be interactions. You wouldn't experience it as anything meaningful. It wouldn't be a world for you.
So it's a loop. Blue space sends a signal.
Red space interprets it, creates meaning, maybe leads to an action.
Which then becomes another event back in the blue space.
Precisely. A constant dance between interaction and interpretation.
Let's talk about that blindfold again, the feeling that we are seeing things directly.
Yes. That compelling sense of direct access. That is the blindfold. Our minds weave such a seamless, convincing story, our red space experience, that we mistake the story for the raw data.
It feels so real, so immediate.
Because the interpretation mechanism is largely invisible to us. Even things we agree on, things that feel objective, they're still happening within our individual red spaces.
So objectivity isn't accessing some true outside world.
From this perspective, no. Objectivity is more like a high degree of alignment between the interpretations happening in different red spaces. When our internal models overlap significantly, we call that objective understanding. It's a very useful tool for navigating the blue space together.
But it's still built on interpretation.
Still built on interpretation, like agreeing on the trunkness and tuskiness of the elephant, but still having unique internal sensations of those things.
There was that really stark quote. If you're still looking for objective reality outside the cave, you're still in it. And in that cave, you are alone.
Powerful, isn't it? It suggests that seeking an absolute truth, completely separate from any mind, any interpretation, is itself part of the interpretive framework we're trying to see beyond. If you haven't seen the cave walls of your own mind, you're still inside, alone with your interpretation.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, the book talks about emergence. How does that fit in?
Emergence is how our minds actually build new ways of seeing, new capacities. It's what happens when our internal model, our red space structure, hits a wall, finds a contradiction.
It has to reorganize itself.
Exactly. It reorganizes to accommodate the new information or resolve the conflict. And boom, a new understanding emerges. A new way of being or doing becomes possible.
Like learning something new. Or having an insight.
Precisely. Learning a skill, grasping a concept, personal growth. These are all examples of emergence. The internal model changes, and so does your ability to interact with the world. The book sees this process contradiction, leading to reorganization and new potential, as absolutely fundamental.
It's how we adapt and grow within our red space.
Yes, and this leads to the idea of transcendence.
Which isn't mystical here, right?
Not in the usual sense.
Yeah.
It's more about maintaining an ongoing awareness of this whole red space, blue space dynamic. Seeing your mind not as a thing, but as a process, constantly interpreting, constantly creating your experienced reality. Recognizing yourself as the interpreter.
That makes sense. Now, you mentioned a really helpful analogy near the end of the sticker book.
On the sticker book. Yeah, it's quite useful. As you find an old sticker book, just covered randomly with stickers.
Okay, yeah. Chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
Looking straight down, it's just a flat jumble of images, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like our normal perception. Everything seems to be on one level, our interpreted reality.
Right.
But then you tilt the book. Look at it from the side.
Ah, okay.
Suddenly you see it's not one flat thing. There are two distinct layers. There's the page itself, maybe with those faint outlines or sticky spots where stickers could go. That's the underlying structure. The rules, the potential, the blue space, the realm of how things work.
And the stickers?
The stickers are stuck on that page. They create the pictures, the scenes, the story you actually see. That's the interpretation layer, the red space, the realm of what we see or experience.
So the flat view hides the two layers, the mechanism underneath the experience.
Exactly. Our minds usually present us with that flat view, the seamless interpretation, hiding the mechanics. Tilting the book is like shifting perspective to see both the blue space rules and the red space stories they enable.
And they're independent but connected? Orthogonal again.
Orthogonal again. The picture the stickers make isn't totally determined by the page layout, right? You could put a dinosaur sticker next to a spaceship sticker, even if the page background is a farm. They interact, but follow different logics.
That really clarifies it. So, wrapping this up, the big idea is what we think of as out there, the world we experience, it's actually built in here.
It's a product of internal interpretation, a unique red space constructed by each of us in response to blue space interactions.
No direct perception, only transformation. Translation.
That's the core message. We're not passive cameras recording reality. We're active reality generators.
Which has huge implications. If you really take this on board, think about how it changes your view of, well, everything. Your own feelings, your arguments with people.
Knowing that the other person is literally living in a different experiential world, built from the same basic blue space signals, but interpreted through their unique red space.
Yeah. What does that mean for communication, for empathy, for understanding someone whose reality seems totally alien to yours?
It invites a different kind of listening, perhaps.
Yeah.
A deeper curiosity about the hidden red space of the other person, rather than just assuming you're both seeing the same stickers on the page.
It's definitely something to chew on. A really provocative idea.
It certainly is.
Well, if this discussion has got you thinking, you really should check out the source itself, Luiz von Paumgarten's The Abstractionist papers. It might just shift how you see, well, everything. And you can find it free online at welcometothe.bluespace.com.
Definitely worth exploring further.
Thanks for joining us on this pretty mind-bending deep dive today.